Welcome, everybody. Monday, June 17th. John Aravosis here. Hello, all. Oh, I made it. On time-ish, even. Big shocker there. Anyway, hey, everybody. We have lovely weather in Washington. I have my coffee. My third coffee is a little bit late, so I may be flying during the show. We'll see. Anyway, so hello, all. Let me get TikTok rolling. And then wait a minute and then jump right in. There, go live TikTok. There we go. Anyway, wait, hold on a second here. Mirror image. Oops. There we go. All right. Excellent. All right, I'll adjust the brightness a little. That's okay. That's good enough. Oh boy. So welcome everybody. Welcome TikTokers. Hey JR. Hey Ash. TikTokers and YouTubers unite. Oops, there we go. Always adjusting my YouTube camera a little bit. There we go. Anyway, hey guys, I know I got it a little shorter. It was a little too long in front for how short it was in back. I mean, it's very short, but you know, it's an experiment. Hey, Alan, thank you for joining us. Jens in Sweden. Anyway, all right. Yes, I've not had my hair this short probably since high school. So I was getting it cut and the guy was like, I'm telling you, it needs to be shorter. I was like, all right, a little bit shorter. Thank you, Live. Thank you, Elizabeth. But I mean, again, I don't ever get it this short, but I was like, you know what? Let's try just for fun. I mean, I like longer hair because I've got curly Greek hair. So it's kind of like Samson. Like you don't like to cut your curly Greek hair, you know? But sometimes I was like, for summertime, we'll do it. Anyway, welcome everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is my show, the Aravosis Report, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Welcome YouTubers over there, TikTokers over here. Thank you, at Street Rat with the gift. Yes, Sarge, exactly. So yeah, actually a lot of news today. A lot of news. So we shall see. Hopefully it's not going to take me too long to get into it, but you know, hey, running for the gifts and Marcy and Street Rat all. A little more coffee. My hair looks like your dad. You know, funny thing, by the way, here's a bit of advice. Don't wish people happy Father's Day just because they have gray hair. It's really weird. I've had 3 people in the last day wish me happy Father's Day. And it was like, one was at the hardware store. It was just weird. It was just weird. I was like, okay, thank you. I was like, not quite, but thank you. But I mean, actually, and then I was getting Sasha, my dog's haircut today, and her groomer, who's probably like 40, she goes, I get happy Mother's Day all the time. You know, thank you, Succeed. I do not have kids, no. But it's so funny. I know. I said, well, I told somebody, I said, happy Daddy's Day, maybe. Happy Father's Day? Not quite. Thank you, running for the gifts. I just think it's funny, right? I mean, although even saying it to a woman, like I would never say that to a woman, you know? What do you do? Anyway, Jakes, you're about to get a timeout and possibly longer. No need to be rude. All right, guys. All right, let's get rolling here. Welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here at the Aravosis Report. Thank you, Peace Dolius, for the gift, and Ernie. This is my nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. We talk about the latest news from Ukraine. The way the show works is I go through the news throughout the day and grab stories that I think are interesting and relevant and all of that I think, you know, sort of tell you where the war is, where it's going, stories that have a larger message. Thank you, Richard, for the gift. And then second half of the show, take your guys' questions, your comments. Throughout, I will say this, first half of the show, I do try to at least take a little look at what you guys are saying. It's just can be hard because I've got a bunch of notes that I write down for the first half. So often I'm kind of reading my notes and I'm not always able to sort of look at all the comments. So just be aware for the first half of the show. Thank you, Jake, for the gift. Elizabeth as well. So yeah, let's get rolling, guys. So welcome everybody. Today's Monday, June 17. Today is day 844 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, please do keep the gifts coming. Just to remind folks, I do this for a living. I've been doing this show since the war broke out. So over 2 years now, maybe 2 years and 3 months or so. But the way I basically afford to do this is with your guys' gifts because I've been doing it full time. Thank you, Lenka, for multiple gifts there. Multiple gifts from Lenka. So if you can keep the gifts coming, thank you. The other thing is, if you buy gifts on YouTube, TikTok maybe too, by the way. YouTube, excuse me. If you buy gifts on TikTok, thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Mark. Possibly even YouTube as well. Thank you, Wilma and Linka. Buy the coins that you use to buy gifts, at least on TikTok, buy them on the web. I think it's tiktok.com/coin. I think, Ash, I don't remember. Did I send you the link? I thought I sent you guys the link over at Discord. Maybe I didn't. Thank you, Maddie, for the gifts. Thank you, Nana. And thank you, James Althouse. But if you buy the coins to do TikTok gifts on your computer, you'll get like 25% more or 30% more. Or I should say you pay that much less. You'll pay 30% more or something if you pay on your iPhone, because they charge the Apple Store. So just keep that in mind, any of you Apple people in general, if you're doing stuff. So, all right, guys. The Discord link, you will find it in my profile on TikTok. Just go to the profile, click the Linktree link, and Discord should be the first thing that comes up. Thank you, Chazak. Thank you, Ernie, Charles. All right, guys, let's get rolling here. So the Peace Summit. So this weekend was Ukraine's big Peace Summit, as you are aware. Basically, the Swiss were holding about 92 countries or so. There were certainly 40, maybe 45 or though heads of state coming to Switzerland to talk about peace in Ukraine. And thank you again, James, for the gift on YouTube. And thank you, James. James again with the gift on YouTube. The summit, you know, as I said before, I think this Peace Summit this weekend in Switzerland was meant to be kind of a show of force for Ukraine. It was a show of support. I'm not convinced it does a lot. I mean, it is meant, I will say this, it is meant to push back on Russian propaganda. Putin lately, for example, has been making this crazy claim that like, oh, he wants peace. I told you guys this a few days ago. Putin's big peace, he put together not a peace treaty. He put together a proposal of what Ukraine needs to do to just have a ceasefire and then talk about peace, right? Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lamb Chop. Listen to this. Putin's proposal, thank you, Lamb Chop, to simply agree to stop fighting with Ukraine, but not a peace agreement, was for Ukraine to give up all the land Russia is already occupying, for Ukraine to give up even more land that Russia isn't occupying. So like Ukraine should give back the land that it got back that Russia stole and it already got back. It should give it up. Ukraine should swear off NATO, God knows for how long. Ukraine should be non-aligned. There shouldn't be any NATO bases there. Oh, and Zelensky is supposed to step down and a puppet government is supposed to be installed that will be pro-Russia. Those conditions are ridiculous. Those are not just the conditions for peace. Those are the conditions for sitting down to discuss peace. Those are the precursors for actually having a ceasefire. Forget the peace treaty. They're out of their minds. But the point I bring this up, and thank James again with a nice gift. The reason I bring their surrender terms, exactly, Chazak said. The reason I bring this up is because with regards to the Swiss Peace Conference this weekend, thank you, Ava, for the gift. I think that's part of the reason these peace conferences are necessary is Ukraine needs to show and the West needs to show that it wants peace, right? That it's willing to talk about peace. Because the Russians, while they literally are killing Ukrainian civilians, out of the other side of their mouth, they say, oh, we want peace. Why do you keep fighting? Kill, 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 right? Why do you keep fighting? Bomb, bomb, bomb. So it does help to sort of push back against the Russians to say, well, we're actually having peace conferences. What are you doing, right? We know what they're doing. Anyway, so let's go next topic. So this was annoying, actually. Hang on a sec. Quick sip of coffee again. Trump says there's no benefit to Ukraine winning the war. Thank you, Angela. No benefit for the U.S. specifically. This was kind of a disgusting thing Trump said this weekend, but not surprising because he is literally in Putin's pocket. Trump talked about the $60 billion additional U.S. aid. Thank you, Elizabeth and Angela. The additional American aid for Ukraine that got passed a couple months ago. Remember, about 8 months ago, the U.S. stopped all aid for Ukraine. Why? Because Trump made them. Trump forced the MAGA Republicans to kill all U.S. aid, and because Congress is split between Democrats and Republicans. Thank you, buddy, for the gift. Because Congress is split between Republicans and Democrats, you can't fund Ukraine without both parties agreeing. Well, Trump literally said, "Kill all aid to Ukraine." Hold on, I'm getting rid of somebody. No, but I will mute you. I don't know if you saw what I just did there, Ash. I was like, I don't think so. Oh my God. Well, what a bizarre, and why would I debate you? Somebody goes, I'm for RFK. You want to debate me? Like, no, I could mute you though. That'd be lovely. Oh, Bash, you saw the clip. Yes. 7.5 years for that baby. Woo. In any case, so we're talking about Trump. So Trump this week in a campaign event says we should have never given Ukraine the $60 billion. It's the money that the U.S. is now giving that is going to Ukraine over these months. That basically saved Ukraine again. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Mustard. We should have never given Ukraine this latest amount of money. We should have kept cutting Ukraine off, which only lets the Russians literally win the war. And Trump added, and this is what I'm saying, like, guys, he's a bad man. He's not interested in peace. He's not working. He doesn't have some, super deal in his head. Trump says this weekend, how does it benefit the U? It doesn't benefit the U.S. if Ukraine wins the war. Thank you, Ellie. It doesn't benefit the Ukraine if the U.S. if Ukraine wins the war. I mean, I would say he's an idiot, but he's not an idiot. I mean, he is an idiot, but he's not an idiot. He works for Putin. Whether he's been, I'm convinced of this at this point. We've got literally 8 years of Donald Trump in Vladimir Putin's pocket. He works for Russia. Whether he works for Russia because they've got something on him, blackmail. Thank you, Nicholas. Or whether Putin bribed him. I still wonder whether Putin gave him a hotel or something, or Trump wants to be bribed by Putin. He wants money for a hotel, right? He wants Putin to let him build a hotel. But for him to say there's no benefit in Ukraine winning the war to America. Well, here's the problem. If Russia wins the war, there's a good chance of a further war in Europe, of Russia invading other European countries, of Russia invading NATO, of him going after Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and the Baltic countries, of him going after Moldova, of him going after Poland. He goes after those countries, and we could very well have World War III at that point. We could very well have another world war in Europe. The best way to have a world war, another one, is to let Putin win in Ukraine, because it will convince the Russians that this kind of aggression was worth it, and that NATO will not. Sure, NATO will do some stuff for a couple of years, but then they'll wimp out. A, they'll wimp out and get tired, or B, just go invade Europe and just wait for a Republican to get elected, because Republicans no longer care about national security. They no longer care about America. They no longer care about our allies. They no longer care about freedom or our troops, right? So just wait. That is what. It's any case. It really pisses me off, because to hear Trump literally say this weekend, there's no benefit in Ukraine winning the war to America, is a lie. And like I said, he's ignorant, but he also works for Putin. He's, there's some saying, I always forget the saying, but something like when your income depends on you saying something, you're going to say it. I don't know whether it was your income depends on you lying, but basically, Trump is speaking for his boss, and his boss is Vladimir Putin. It's sick. Sky News, a record number of NATO countries are expected to hit the military alliance's defense spending target this year. This is a good story. Trump kind of gets credit, but he doesn't totally get credit, because I think he's going to cause World War III. So I take a point away for causing World War III, but he does get, or maybe I take 2 points away from Trump for, I think, putting us on the path to World War III, but he gets 1 point for pressuring Europe to spend more money on defense. What happened is, according to the Secretary General of NATO, the European countries, now the NATO countries, more of them are spending money on defense. Thank you, John, for the gift, and Marcy. As you may know, part of the agreement of being in NATO, as of the last 20 years, has been that each country commits to spending 2% of its GDP on defense. What that means is the size of your defense budget of each country should be equal to or larger than 2% of their TikTok. I see. Amanda's, thank you guys on TikTok. Amanda's already over there on YouTube. She got him. Goodbye, Russian troll on YouTube. Goodbye. Double barb. A lot of European countries were not. A lot of NATO members were not spending 2% of their economy on defense, and they're supposed to. Thank you, Ava. Jackie G, and thank you, Brian, for the gifts. So Trump was correct in complaining about that. The problem is, Trump complained by saying we will no longer defend Europe. He invited Vladimir Putin to invade Europe and said, go ahead and invade. I'm not going to help. He's told the Europeans privately that he's pulling out of NATO and will never come to their aid. Every time I do my finger thing, it's funny. It's on YouTube, it's showing the things thumbs up thing. He's told the Europeans he will never come to their aid if they get invaded. That is not, and by the way, this is the most important point. This weekend, Trump said he's pissed off that the U.S. gave another $60 billion in aid for Ukraine. Thank you, Ignacio. Thank you, Nicholas. Right? Think about that. The MAGA people will try to tell you, no, Trump was criticizing NATO because they weren't spending enough on their defense. America was spending a lot. Oh, okay. So if the reason Trump was upset with NATO countries and saying he wouldn't defend them and saying he wouldn't help Ukraine was because the Europeans weren't spending enough on defense, at the end of this year, we are now going to have 22 NATO countries, 20 NATO countries meeting the NATO target on how much they should be spending on defense. Thank you, Courtney. 20 out of 32 is like 62.5%. So almost 63% of NATO countries are now will be spending the right money this year. That's great. That's great. Do you think that's going to change Trump's mind and he's suddenly going to want to defend NATO and he's going to suddenly want to defend Europe? No. Right? Thank you, Larissa. Trump said this weekend. He said this weekend that we shouldn't be giving any money to Ukraine. He's never, guys, Trump, here's the thing. Trump did not complain. Trump doesn't care if NATO allies spend how much they spend on defense because Trump will never come to their defense because he doesn't believe in NATO. He believes in Russia, right? His alliance is with Putin. His alliance is not with America. His alliance is not with America's allies, whether it's in Russia or the Europe, whether it's in Asia. Trump does things to benefit Putin. It doesn't benefit Putin to win the war in Ukraine. So we're not going to win it under Trump. It doesn't benefit Putin for Trump to change his mind and say, well, now that you're doing enough, thank you, Jeremy, now that Europe's spending enough on defense, I guess America will defend Europe again if Russia invades. How does that benefit Trump, right? I mean, literally, guys, in Europe, you'd have to get your money together and bribe him like $1 billion, and maybe Trump would defend you. Thank you, Jen. Or you'd have to blackmail him, and then he'd defend you. He's not going to defend you because you're spending more money on defense. So, but in any case, the final point I was going to make with this is, I think what's really annoying too is Trump, as I said, Trump got the Europeans to spend more on defense by destroying America's credibility. Thank you, Martin. The world can no longer trust the word of the American president. Right? You've learned. I mean, all of our allies in Europe, you know this. You can't trust us. If we elect a Republican now, screw you, right? America's not coming to your defense under Donald Trump. You know that. All of our treaties are lies. All of the commitments America made over the years are now lies. It all depends. If Donald Trump comes in, you're screwed. So the reason Europe is spending more on defense is because Donald Trump destroyed the good word and good faith of the United States government. Donald Trump made it clear that no one around the world can trust the United States government. And that's why people are spending more on defense. That is not a good thing. And of course, as I said, the other problem is he literally would let Putin invade Europe because Trump literally called on Putin to invade Europe. He's going to get us into a war, guys. In any case, Phillips O'Brien. So Phillips O'Brien is a really interesting British defense expert. He's at some university, maybe in Scotland. I forget where he is. I think Scotland. And he's going to he writes stuff, but he was going to write a longer piece about this. But he gave an initial thank you, Booty, for the gift. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. As I said, I do this for a living. Your gifts on TikTok and YouTube help me pay my bills and keep the show going. So please, and subscribe if you can as well. Become a monthly subscriber. We just did that over the weekend, which was great. We have a weekend show most Saturdays where we get together, and it's just for you guys who are the monthly subscribers. So thank you for that. Anyway, thank you, Adventures. Thank you. Who's that? Andrea? Or thank you, Andy B. Phillips O'Brien. So Phillips O'Brien, British defense expert, writes today, the media completely overreacted to the Russian Kharkiv offensive. Thank you, Jen, for the gift. Now almost 40 days old. He's talking about Russia attacking in Kharkiv, northeastern Ukraine, coming across the border, threatening potentially even the town of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. And everybody was freaking out, right? Everybody was freaking out. Thank you, Elizabeth. Everybody was freaking out. Thank you, Marie. He says the media completely overreacted to Russia's invasion of northeastern Ukraine 40 days ago. I've shown how it was portrayed as representing Russian strategic foresight and could lead to a Ukrainian collapse. This is what people were saying, like, oh my God, Ukraine could collapse. This is terrible. He says, actually, the Russian offensive has revealed itself to be a strategic catastrophe for Russia and is now, I'm going to get that one myself. Goodbye. Yep. A strategic catastrophe for Russia and is now leading to astronomical losses that, if anything, are limiting Russia's advances in the Donbass. Thank you, Sakenas. Thank you, user 336. I actually think the Kharkiv offensive and the entire Russian campaign of 2024 actually is most revealing in that it confirms that Ukraine can win the war. Now, that's a little hopeful, but one of the points he makes, which I think is very interesting, is we know this from the news in the last couple of days. The Russians lost 1,000 men a day in northeastern Ukraine, the Kharkiv offensive. Thank you, Elizabeth. By losing them, I don't just mean casualties, which is the military term that includes wounded and dead. This is 1,000 up. Hey, thank you for the gifts. Whoever did the gift memberships, if anybody saw who did that, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me know who did it. But the Russians were getting killed 1,000 of their troops a day, which is a huge deal. Joe did. Joe Colella. Thank you, Joe. Very nice of you. Appreciate that. Horrific. And the second thing is, by getting all these troops killed in northeastern Ukraine, what he says is Russia has now made it harder for themselves to fight in the rest of Ukraine because they just got rid of a bunch of troops. I mean, guys, 1,000 troops a day over a month is 30,000 troops killed. That's huge. Thank you, Chip, for the heart, and Max Trax as well. Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting perspective. It certainly backs up what we've seen, which is Russia's counteroffensive in northeastern Ukraine is petering out. We know that, and Ukraine's doing better, which is great. Little more here. Germany is sending a Frankenstein air defense tank to Ukraine. They're calling it the Frankenstein tank. A new Frankenstein air defense tank designed to shoot down Russian drones and missiles is to be supplied to Ukraine by the German top arms firm Rheinmetall. Rheinmetall announced it will mount its state-of-the-art Sky Ranger anti-aircraft system on Cold War-era Leopard 1 tank hulls, creating a new vehicle to bolster Ukraine's defenses. The Kyiv Independent, Ukraine also is beefing up its its boat drones. So Ukraine, as you know, is a bunch of different types of drones, right? The air drones we all know about. They also use boat drones, basically unmanned vehicles. In this case, unmanned little boats. Now, these things could be 6 or 9 feet long, right? 2 or 3 meters long. They're not small, but they're like low. They almost look like really big surfboards in a way, right? They're very low to the water, so they're hard to see. Typically, like the boat drones especially, are used as kamikaze drones, meaning you blow them up. You hit a target and blow it up. By the way, Ash, I don't know if you saw my comment in Discord today about trying to record. If somebody can get me a recording of the error on TikTok when you go to subscribe for my monthly subscribers, and it only shows you $24.99 is the only option, because it should give you a $6.99 option as well. But for many people, it's not. So I'd love to get a video of that. Ash or one of the other mods, who know how to get a hold of me later. Ukraine's got a boat drone that they've just beefed up with an anti-aircraft missile, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Luis, I did not start late. You started late. I've been going for half an hour. But listen to this. This is from the Kyiv Independent. The Magura V5 naval drone can now be equipped with an anti-aircraft platform and R-73 air-to-air guided missiles, according to Ukrainian military intelligence. The Vimpal R-73, also known under the NATO reporting name AA-11 Archer, is a short-range infrared homing missile developed by the Soviet Union in the 1980s, mainly for use by aircraft like MiG-29 or Su-34. One of the Magura drones has already been equipped with these missiles, which is pretty cool. Now I'm kind of curious about this, though, because the earlier missiles we heard, I don't think these are the same ones. We heard maybe a month ago that we saw a video of it or pictures that the Ukrainians put rockets, I think they were rockets or missiles, on their boat drone. I thought at the time, thank you, Luis, appreciate the gift. I thought at the time that it was actually, I would like a couple videos from Discord folks. If you know how to contact me, I'd love a video of it only showing you the monthly subscription being $6.99 or the lower number. And I'd love a video of it only showing you the higher number. because you're supposed to have two options: the cheaper option, $6.99, or what, depending on where you are, and the higher one, $24.99. But they're trying to fix it, but they need an example of it, like, because if it works for somebody, then they can't fix it, right? They can't see it. Thank you, Sakenas. Any case, yeah, so very cool. They're using a boat drone with anti-aircraft weapons, which is totally cool. There's another new boat drone that the Ukrainians have as well. Listen to this. This is from the Telegraph. Ukraine has unveiled a new higher-powered version of its naval sea drones that have been used to devastate the Russia's Black Sea Fleet. The new version, named Stalker 5.0, it's like a horror movie, Stalker 5.0, features a 60-horsepower speedboat engine and can carry explosive payloads up to 150 kilograms. It can travel, thank you, who's that with the gift? Thank you, Christine, for the sea gift. It can travel at speeds up to 40 knots or 46 miles an hour, which is maybe 63, 65 kilometers, something like that. And has an operational range of 372 miles, enough for the Ukrainians to hit the Kerch Bridge. So very interesting. A little bit of water. I'm back to my Ukraine mug again. And I put ice. Look at how I put ice cubes in it. Does that not look like the sweat on the mug from my ice cubes? Oh my God, so good. Nummy, nummy, nummy. All right. Kerch Bridge. So speaking of the Kerch Bridge, the Ukrainians gave kind of an update, and I'm not convinced that it's not misinformation. It might be. This was an update from the Ukrainians, quoted by, I think, the Kyiv Independent. Destruction of the Kerch Bridge, which is in southern Ukraine connecting Russia to Ukraine. Destruction of the Kerch Bridge won't be as effective anymore, the military says, the Ukrainian military. The bridge accounts for less than a quarter of the total transiting cargo between Russia and Ukraine. And for the rest of the cargo, Russia uses a ferry crossing in Kerch, which the Ukrainian military hit in May. So Ukrainian military is saying it's not as beneficial for them to go after the Kerch Bridge anymore because 75% of the traffic bringing supplies back and forth is going elsewhere. I almost feel like that's disinformation. Now, mind you, I am not telling you anything the Russians don't know. The Russians might be evil in many ways, but they're not stupid, right? They know that they shouldn't trust the Ukrainians saying, oh, the Kerch Bridge, not so important anymore, right? First of all, Sakenas makes a good point. 25% is still huge. Exactly. A fourth of the Russian supplies for the war are going across. Actually, that's a great point, Sakenas, because the way you said that. 1/4 of Russia's supplies for the war are going across the Kerch Bridge, right? You can hit that bridge and take out 25% of Russia's war supplies. That's huge. I wonder if the Ukrainians aren't playing a little bit of disinformation as well. You know, kind of saying, well, oh, the bridge isn't as important anymore. You don't need to defend it, right? I mean, and again, I'm not telling you anything that the Russians don't know. They know that they've got to worry as to whether Ukraine's playing a game. I just thought it was kind of interesting. So let's talk about my other favorite guy, RFK Jr. So this nut job who's running for president here, he's what is he? The nephew of President Kennedy, I believe. Yeah, he's the nephew of President Kennedy, our president back in the 1960s, who was killed. And he used to be a big environmentalist, a big environmental activist. Now he's crazy. He's running for president. He will not win. He may steal enough votes to help Trump win. That's a possibility. But he's crazy. He's an anti-vaccine guy. And when I say anti-vaccine, I mean literally all vaccines he's against. He claims that, and he claimed this last summer. I did a big fact checking with you guys for like 25 minutes reading his quotes. He claimed last summer that not a single vaccine has been proven safe in all of history. He then claimed that not a single vaccine has been proven effective in all of history. Okay? The guy's wacky. His organization he created about children's health, and of course it's the opposite of children's health. His organization he created about children's health came out a couple months ago opposing the polio vaccine. They claimed the polio vaccine doesn't work and that polio isn't caused by polio, which I thought was fascinating, right? I mean, anyway, he's a wackadoo. This is RFK Jr. So he came out, and what do you know? He defended Russia, attacked Ukraine, attacked America, attacked NATO this weekend. Somebody had put a quote, a claim on Twitter, basically attacking Ukraine and attacking NATO. One of the pro-Russian people, thank you, Super Hornet, writes on Twitter, attacking NATO and attacking Ukraine, writes on Twitter, thank you, Super Hornet, thank you, Cracker. and writes, NATO isn't an alliance. It's a US-led military dictatorship. He was complaining that NATO is trying to get all their members to put forth military aid for Ukraine. And this guy, who's clearly a pro-Russian troll, says NATO isn't an alliance. It's a US-led military dictatorship. So what does RFK Jr. do? The guy running for president, who's kind of become a Republican, really, and is super anti-Ukraine, weirdly another one that's weirdly pro-Putin, right? He comes out and says about Ukraine, about the war in Ukraine and Putin's invasion. Listen to this. Listen to this. After decades of aggressive expansion, he means by NATO, okay? After decades of aggressive expansion by NATO, does anyone really think NATO is a defensive alliance anymore? He's claiming that NATO is the aggressor and that NATO caused the war because poor Putin, he's such a peace-loving guy, and NATO scared him, and that's why he had to attack Ukraine. I guess that's also why he had to kidnap 20,000 Ukrainian children and try to blackmail or brainwash them into thinking they're Russians and putting them up now on an adoption site for Russians to take them and never have these kids see their parents before. That, by the way, is from the International Criminal Court. They charge Putin with a war crime, crimes against humanity, for kidnapping Ukrainian children. They literally been picking up Ukrainian children as trophies of war, the way you'd pick up puppy, like, you know, a puppy that you find in the field, right? Or a pretty stone. They've been picking up babies and giving them away in Russia and not even looking for the Ukrainian parents. It's sick. So RFK Jr. thinks NATO has been aggressively expanding for decades, and we're no longer a defensive alliance. We clearly want war. Okay, first of all, you have an American suggesting that America wants war. For starters, not my kind of person, right? I really do. I mean, I'll criticize my country in fair ways, but saying that kind of bullshit is the kind of thing a traitor says, as far as I'm concerned. Second of all, NATO's been aggressively expanding. Let me tell you a little story about how NATO's expanded over the last 20 years, okay? In the last 20 years, guess who's joined NATO? I'm gonna pull, oh, hold on. I'm getting my other map for this one. Hold on. Okay? Hold on. All right? Okay. Let me get my little pointer. We're going to show you how NATO has expanded in the last 20 years and so threatened the Russian border, which RFK Jr. is claiming, okay? Here's Europe. Here's Russia, okay? So Russia's over here. Here's Ukraine, okay? In the last 20 years, here's Russia. Keep an eye on this, right? This big thing here is Russia, all of this. Where has NATO expanded in the last 20 years? Here's Russia. Let me pull these up. Albania. Boom. Here's Russia. Albania. You got to cross 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 or 6 countries to get to Albania. Croatia. I'm not very good at my map. Croatia might be here. Oh no, I'm not quite sure. Croatia's somewhere right up here. These are all former Albania is not, but these other countries I'm going to mention are the previous Yugoslavia that fell apart and then became separate countries. Croatia, Montenegro, former Yugoslavia, North Macedonia, former Yugoslavia. North Macedonia might be right here. So all right here, this is where Russia is. All the way over here is the countries that joined NATO, okay? Pretty much equal distance to where Germany is, right? You've got to get through 5 countries to get here. NATO didn't expand on the Russian border. The other thing, these are not former Soviet, they're not even former Soviet bloc countries. Because the other thing Putin tries to do, the Russians took half of Europe hostage after World War II. A lot of people don't, I mean, I would say people who know the war know that the Russians basically were allies of the Germans in World War II. Russia reached a secret pact, not so secret, but Molotov-Ribbentrop pact, or Ribbentrop-Molotov pact, however you want to say it. And basically the Germans and the Russians got together and said, you know what? Let's split up Europe. Let's invade Poland together. You know, Mr. H, man of Germany, and Stalin of Russia. Let's invade Europe. Let's both invade Poland and just split it up between us. I will be your friend, the Russians said to the Germans in World War II. We'll be your friends. We won't attack you. You feel free to go and invade everybody you want in Europe. Germany, you start that war in Europe because we, the Russians, will not fight you. Because Germany was terrified of fighting the Russians in the East, right? Again, Germany's over here, right? Germany invades, right? Belgium, France. I mean, Italy, they already have a buddy in Italy. Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, right? All the places they want to invade are over here. They don't want to have to deal with the Russians over here coming in and fighting them because they know they're going to have to deal with France and Great Britain. They don't want another front. The Russians promised them, don't worry, we're your buddy. We're your buddy H-man in Germany. We're not gonna go to war. 2 years later, the Germans turn around and attack the Russians. So Russia has no choice but to go to war with Germany because Germany attacked it, right? Now, America was not exactly getting involved in the war, but we were helping the Brits the whole time and everything else. And we certainly weren't on Germany's side. We were on Europe's side, but our people didn't want to get involved in the war. But we weren't helping out like the Russians did. In any case, the war ends. By the way, Russia helps us defeat Germany by us giving Russia a ridiculous amount of aid. Important, though, we had to win, right? My enemy's enemy is my friend. The Americans, the Brits, probably others, gave the Russians a ton of aid to help keep the country afloat and beat the Germans. We beat Germany, okay? Germany's beaten. Now, to get over here to fight in Germany, the Russians have to come across, right? They've got to come across to get into Germany. Well, what do? They come across here to get to Germany, and they say, you know what? All these countries we stopped in on the way, we kind of like them, and we're not going to leave. Russia literally grabbed half of Europe, guys. They grabbed the Baltic states, Bulgaria, Poland, Ukraine they already had, or I think they may have grabbed, I'm trying to remember when they grabbed Ukraine, actually. When did the Russians grab Ukraine? Was it as early as the 1920s? I always forget that. Czechoslovakia, which was one country they grabbed, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, right? Moldova. They grabbed, actually Moldova, part of the Soviet Union too. They grabbed all of these countries and they didn't let go. They literally took half of Europe, 1920s, that's what I thought. Thank you, Lenka. They literally took half of Europe hostage, okay? For 45 years, until the Soviet Union fell apart, and the Soviet, which was run by the Russians, until the Soviet Union fell apart, Russia occupied half of Europe, set up horrific communist dictatorships. I mean, some of the most horrific dictatorships in the world, what these guys did, killing their own people. East Germany alone, they set up a separate country in the eastern part of Germany. East Germany alone, the secret police called the Stasi were notorious for being very effective and very scary, right? And very deadly. The Stasi had files on 1/3 of the entire German population, guys. Imagine this. The population of East Germany, the secret police had secret files on 1/3 of the population. That's how freaking bad these people were, okay? Anyway, what happens? And this is an important story, though. World War II ends. Russia literally kidnaps half of Europe. The Western Europeans look at this and go, holy crap, right? The Allies, mind you, everyone's just fought a war against Germany, Britain, France, Italy fighting a war against their own fascist leaders, right? Greece. Everybody just got done fighting against the Nazis. They're exhausted. Their people are exhausted. A lot of their people are dead. They can't afford to go to war against the Russians. So we didn't liberate Eastern Europe. We let the Russians hold it hostage for 45 years. NATO was formed. NATO was formed to protect all of these guys against this guy who now had taken half of Europe hostage. Once the Russians took half of Europe hostage, if you lived in Europe, would you not say, well, he just took half of, imagine he takes half your city. He takes half your city. You live in the other half of the city. You're going to be worried about the guy that just took control of half of the street gang that just took control of half of your city. You're going to be worried in the other half of the city if the street gang's coming for you, right? So they joined NATO. All these Western European countries, Greece, France, United Kingdom, right? Norway, a bunch of these guys joined NATO. Italy of all things, kind of interesting. They joined NATO to protect them from the Russians who were holding Europe hostage. Well, 1991 comes. We almost ought to have a show just about this topic. 1991 comes. Soviet Union falls apart at the seams, thank God. The Soviet dictatorship is gone. You've got the countries of Eastern Europe who were previously Russian hostages are now free because all of their governments blow up. 1989, all the governments of Eastern Europe, the European dictatorships that the Russians were not just putting in place, but controlling. The Russians invaded, by the way. They invaded Czechoslovakia, Prague. They invaded Hungary to kill the people that were trying to rise up for democracy. The Russians came in with tanks, killed them. Students, a lot of them. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Jen. You get to 1991. Soviet Union blows up. The Russians are no longer all powerful. Thank you, Jen, again. Thank you, Luis. All these countries in Eastern Europe are suddenly free, right? Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, they're free. They throw off the communist dictatorships and they say, oh my God, NATO, please protect us, right? We were being held hostage for 45 years. Please protect us from the bad man to the east. Same thing happens to the Soviet Union. Soviet Union blows up 2 years later, 1991. The former Soviet Union was basically 15 countries made up of 14 hostages and one hostage taker, Russia. Russia, the hostage taker, basically was controlling and ruling over 14 other countries who were being treated as hostages, horrifically murdered. People were moved out of their countries, and they would send people from these countries to Siberia, like from Estonia. Thank you, Elizabeth. They would literally take Estonians. Mind you, Estonia is all the way over here, guys. They would take Estonians here and ship them to the other side of Russia, Siberia. Let me tell you how far Siberia is from Estonia. It's 11 time zones from Estonia, guys. 11 freaking time zones away to the east. That's how far away they shipped these people to basically destroy these countries. And then they had Russians move in. They did the same thing to Ukraine and Crimea. They took the Tatars out of Crimea, shipped them away. The former Soviet countries and the former Soviet bloc countries. So in other words, the countries in Europe that Russia was holding hostage and the countries as part of the Soviet Union that Russia was holding hostage were finally free when the Soviet Union blew up. They turned to NATO and said, NATO, please protect us. You know, this guy held us hostage for 50 years. Please protect us. Okay? That's why NATO grew. NATO grew in the last 75 years because countries kept coming to us and going, please protect me from the bad man. And the bad man was Russia. Okay? That's why NATO grew. NATO didn't grow because we went to them. Eastern Europeans, by the way, begged us to join NATO. Ukraine, by the way, Ukraine begged us to join. Ukraine's been begging us since 2008. It's been 16 years since Ukraine wanted to join NATO. We have said no. I mean, you know, we kept playing games with them, but we basically said no. The notion that RFK Jr., this idiot running for president here in the US, who's basically become a Republican now, he's basically a MAGA Republican, and he's very pro-Putin, anti-American. The notion that we're to blame for Ukraine invading for Russia invading Ukraine because Putin was scared of NATO. Well, okay. First of all, again, how, right? NATO didn't expand anywhere near Russia in all that time. But second of all, if the only reason Putin went into Ukraine was because he was afraid of NATO somehow, why did he kidnap 20,000 children, Ukrainian children, and just give them away to Russians, to strip them of their citizenship, strip them of their families and give them away? How does NATO expansion explain that, right? The war crimes. How? Why is he bombing civilians left and right? Putin in Ukraine, war crimes. Why? Right? Because of NATO? Did we make Putin bomb civilians? I don't think so. Did we make Putin literally kidnap 10 to 20,000 Ukrainian children? I don't think so. This is who RFK Jr. is, guys. I mean, again, he's crazy. I mean, he's literally crazy, I personally think. But also he sides with Putin and sides with Russia. You know, I mean, if you're a Trump supporter, feel free to vote for him. But if you're somebody who's like considering Biden or Trump, you're insane if you vote for RFK Jr. thinking you're getting somebody better. He's not better. He's pro-Putin. Also, by the way, funny little aside, if you're on the left and you think you're going to vote for RFK Jr. instead of Joe Biden, guess who is 1,000 times worse than Joe Biden on Gaza? Meaning, guess who's 1,000 times less supportive of the Palestinians than Joe Biden? 1, Donald Trump. 2, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He gave this talk a couple months ago. I remember watching the video and I almost died. In the entire interview, he's railing against the Palestinians and blaming them for everything and saying, you know, they could have agreed. No, I don't disagree with him on some of this, but you guys, a lot of you who are pro-Palestine don't agree with me, is my point. Thank you, Tom. And you're pissed at Biden because of his position on Israel versus Palestine. RFK Jr. thinks the Palestinians are to blame for everything. Thank you, Tom Weber. That they're to blame for everything because they could have had peace 20 years ago. They could have had peace 30 years ago. And they said, no, it's their fault they're getting bombed. Biden has never said that. Joe Biden has never said that. I mean, Biden is very supportive of Israel, as am I. but he's never said, like, he's never blamed the whole thing on the Palestinians. Guess who blames the Palestinians for everything happening right now? RFK Jr. So again, could things be worse than Biden? Let me tell you the ways. Let me tell you the ways. Any case, another sip of coffee and we'll keep moving here. Very good. Very good. Keep the gifts coming, guys. Remember, I do this for a living. Your gifts help me pay the bills and help me keep doing the show. Gifts on TikTok and YouTube. There we go. Thank you, Tom. And also gift memberships are great too. Thank you, Boy Mom. Thank you, PC No. Or basically you sign up for a month by month to donate. Thank you, Timothy. It's nice because if I can get the subscriptions higher on TikTok and YouTube, I don't have to keep like hitting you up as much for the gifts. Thank you, Tom. Just makes it easier. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Katie. That's so good. I love ice water. All right. A little more news. This was interesting from Reuters. Canada does not think the time is right to send military trainers to Ukraine, given hesitation among NATO allies about such a step, according to Canada's defense minister. I thought that was odd. Now, granted, Canada has a lot of domestic politics going on. I do not know Canadian domestic politics. Thank you, John. So this could be because of Canadian domestic politics. This could also be the Americans saying, don't make Putin angry. I just thought it was interesting that Canada came out and said, nope, we're not sending trainers. Thank you, Inspired. But again, possibly, thank you, John and Inspired, both for gifts. Possibly this is Canadian domestic politics too, that he doesn't want to rock the boat anymore. I don't know. Latvia has already dispatched the first batch of drones to Ukraine. Latvia is part of an international coalition, I think with the Brits. Yes, with the Brits to buy a lot of drones for Ukraine. Thank you, Inspired Woman, again. Thank you, Jen. Sky News reports the UK and Latvia announced they would lead the drone coalition in February, designed to rapidly supply Ukraine with tens of thousands of first-person view drones, that's FPV drones. Other countries to have joined the group of coalition nations to help get the drones: Australia, Canada, Denmark, Estonia, Poland, Sweden, Germany, and the Netherlands. Latvia's defense minister says the coalition has already received international commitments totaling 549 million euros, which would be around the same in dollars, more or less. Another sip of water. The Canadians can probably teach a lot, I would think, Clem. Clem says, I want to know what Canada can teach Ukraine about fighting. Probably a lot. I mean, NATO is Canada is a member of NATO. Canadian troops have been through a lot of training. Ukrainian troops, we trained a lot of Ukrainian troops over the years. A lot of those guys are dead or injured at this point, right? You know what I mean? Again, I'm not the expert on the defense side of all of this, but I'm going to wager that Canada has some very, very highly trained troops. They know how to use a lot of the NATO weapons that are going over there as well. They can train them on the weapons specifically. No, I would not be surprised that Canada actually could train the Ukrainians on a lot of stuff. Flying in the various weapons. Sure. Also, as I said, imagine junior officers, things like that too, So Simon says, I was there, part of the training. There you go. Well, also keep this in mind too. Thank you, Frank Thomas, for the gift, by the way, on YouTube. Appreciate that. One of the things that we are trying to instill there, I was just going to say, Luis just said NATO tactics and logistics. One of the things we're trying to sort of teach the Ukrainians is to stop thinking like Soviets, because they were part of the Soviet Union. Stop thinking like Russians, very inefficiently about war. And like the Russians apparently are notoriously really bad at logistics, for example. Thank you, Elizabeth. And teaching the Ukrainians combined arms as well, I believe, like how you integrate different aspects of warfare, tanks and planes and drones and everything all together, right? And the Russians are really bad at it. So part of it is getting NATO trainers to train the Ukrainians how to think like NATO, how to use NATO tactics and be more effective against the Russians. Anyway, a little more here. Ukraine's energy. We're almost done actually here. Ukraine's energy. Kyiv Independent says, Ukrainians may have electricity for 6 to 7 hours per day only in the upcoming winter if the electricity deficit remains at 35%. Basically, the Russians have been hitting so much Ukrainian energy generating, this kind of stuff, right? Energy plants, etc., that the Ukrainians they're suffering a deficit of like 35% of their energy generating, and they may only have the power on 6 to 7 hours a day in the winter, which is really bad. Obviously, because you're talking about a freezing winter. Finally, final story. From 65% to 74% of Ukrainians, depending on the region, agree that Zelensky must remain in power till the end of martial law. What is interesting about that is, and this is kind of funny actually, the Russian government, which of course is a dictatorship, has been trying to attack, and the Russians like to do this. They like to attack, thank you, Boy Mom, for subscribing. They like to attack countries for basically accusing them of doing what the Russians are doing. Thank you, Memphis. So it's accusing, like if I do something wrong, I accuse you of it first, right? And what Putin did, Putin just had a sham election, got reelected. He got reelected with like 87% of the voters. I mean, imagine 87%. Give me a break, right? Give me a break. Total scam. And Putin literally came out and claimed recently that Zelensky isn't a legitimate president because Ukraine had to put its elections on hold because of the Russian invasion. Under the Ukrainian constitution, the elections are on hold. That's just the way it works, right? They can't, the parliament would have to like pass a whole special thing. It would be very complicated. Well, Putin's been trying to say, aha, Ukraine had to suspend its elections. That means Zelensky's not legitimate. Well, under their own constitution, Ukraine's got to suspend the elections when they're invaded, when they're having martial law. Second of all, kind of a unique circumstance since Russia's literally occupying 17, 18% of Ukraine. But for Putin, a dictator, to accuse Ukraine of being not democratic enough is just freaking hilarious, right? Absolutely hilarious. So it was another gift membership. I thought it was. Somebody just did a gift membership a second ago. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Anyway, there you go. We will do our hangout now where we talk about the issues, take your guys' questions. Keep in mind, our auctions end tomorrow. We've got a number of really cool auction items over at Discord. I provide 50% of the monies we make from our auctions. A lot of it's cool stuff from Ukraine. 50% of the money I send back to Ukraine as aid for the Ukrainians, military and civilian aid. And the other half goes to support me because I do this full time. I will show you a couple of the items because we only have one day left. You can find the auctions over at Discord. You can find our Discord community at TikTok. Go to the profile, my profile on TikTok. Click the Linktree link that's there, the URL. And the very first thing that comes up, you'll see Discord. Click it. And then once you get to Discord, follow the rules, accept the rules, that kind of garbage, right? Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Timothy. And look for the auctions on the left-hand side. For you guys on YouTube, same thing. Go to the description of the show, look for the Linktree link, click it. Top thing that comes up says Discord, click it, and then you're in. Now, a couple different things. I think this is cool, little weird, but kind of cool. It's a piece of a Ukrainian MiG fighter that was shot down, or possibly friendly fire. We don't quite know, but piece of the war, which again, since I support Ukraine, I look at this as being a positive memento of the war. This is very nice. This has been doing very well. It is a trivet, I am told. Basically, Ukrainian handicraft. These are popular Ukraine, traditional. Is my sound gone? Oops. Hang on. Sorry, my sound. Let me try this again. My sound may have disappeared off of TikTok. I'm pushing this. I'm changing this. Okay, TikTok, I unplugged and replugged in. Just checking. You hear me fine? Okay, good. So this trivet is really cool. Made from juniper, traditional Ukrainian handicraft, made by hand. And it is made from wood. And it is what you put hot food on the table in order not to ruin your table. Smells absolutely wonderful because it's Ukrainian juniper, Vlad was saying. And just very pretty. It's about, I measured it. It's about 6.5 or 7 inches by 7 inches. I think, did we say that's 19 centimeters squared, I believe. Very cool. Very cool thing. A couple more things. Very cool t-shirt. We've got a t-shirt that was sold by the Ukrainian military to raise money for the Ukrainian military. It shows the Ukrainian trident and it says Video V ZSU, which basically means I believe in the Ukrainian military, the armed forces of Ukraine. Very cool shirt. It was the military actually selling these, which is kind of cool. So these come from the Ukrainian military that sell these t-shirts to make money. I believe this is a double X. It's in the auction, but I think it's a double XL, and they're big shirts. So this is a real double XL. I think it's not a vlogger says dope. I do. I think this shirt's very cool. To me, any shirt that's got like foreign writing on it is always cool, but particularly a Ukrainian one, and it's the Ukrainian military selling the shirts, is pretty cool. One or two more things. Really cool little bracelet. I do like these bracelets. Bracelets showing the Ukrainian trident. Nice and woven. I mean, this obviously wears like, oops, I'm not wearing it on my hand right now. There we go. But very nice bracelet. See the trident. And I'll skip the other stuff right now. Actually, finally, bag of Ukrainian candy. There's about 8 different things. Cool bag of Ukrainian candy that Vlad sent over. It's halva, it's nuts, it's chocolate, it's a little bit of everything. So you can also buy this in the auction. Anyway, so there you go. Very cool stuff. So as I said, half of the auction stuff goes to Ukraine, half of it goes to us to support my work because I do this full time. I'm not going to give all my money to Ukraine. I did raise probably about $150,000 for Ukraine. How much did you raise, user 658? I'm going to guess nothing because you're Russian. Bye-bye. Where is he? Bye-bye. Thank you, Big D. Anyway, so yeah, guys, let's hang out. How are we all doing? Yeah, that's not even true. Stay woke. I'm going to assume you're not a Russian. I mean, but that's just not even vaguely true what you just wrote. So let it go. That's Russian propaganda. You're Russian and supporting Ukraine because you are a good person, Antonina. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, D, there's no such thing. So let it go. Anybody else talking about this draft American law, mute them for 5 minutes, Ash. It's a troll. It's clearly a troll talking point now. Because we have two different people say the same thing, it's a troll talking point. Well, anybody else? Leave them now, but anybody else talking about it gets muted for 5 minutes because I don't believe it's legit. Hey, Flower Power, thank you for the gift. Well, Ukraine and Russia are both kind of having trouble getting, I don't know about trouble getting troops. I don't know about that. Vernon says Biden-Trump debate stream. Maybe, Vernon, maybe. Maybe, I'd consider that. Biden is having his debate with Trump in 9 days, maybe? Mike, when is it, guys? Do people know what day it is? Is it Wednesday in a week? It's something like 9 days from now, I think. But yeah, I'd consider doing that. A debate hangout. You know, maybe we do the show early. Maybe we skip the show that night. I don't know. We'll see. But I'd consider that. Let's see. It's not until next week. So let's wait until we get there. 27th, that'd be 10 days. So maybe it's 10 days from then. Maybe I heard it today was 10 days. I probably heard it on the news this morning then because it's Monday. You're right. RFK will not be a part of the debate because he doesn't meet the rules. I don't remember what the rules are, but typically in American presidential debates, you have to have a certain percentage of the national polls, or you have to have a certain amount of course, America being America, you have to have a certain number of donors, which is insane because this is the way America works. People donate to political campaigns. Way too much money in our politics. But there's all sorts of rules because basically we are not a parliamentary system. So we don't want crazy people on stage with our leaders for president because our system isn't parliamentary. It's winner take all, so to speak. So you don't want crazy people on the stage taking votes away because then it just doesn't work. Because there's in Europe at least, a small party can get 5 or 6% and make it, right? In America, if you get 5 or 6%, all you are is a spoiler. We had one guy in the 1990s who got, I think, Ross Perot got 19%. All he did was stop George Bush from getting reelected because he got nothing with 19%, Anyway, thank you, Jason Sell, for the subscription, or maybe renewing possibly on YouTube for that. Thank you. I don't know, JR. JR asks, why is Ukraine so averse to adopting Western military tactics? I'm guessing old habits die hard. A lot of the older Ukrainian guys, some of them were trained by the Soviets. I mean, you'd have to be pretty old now to be trained by the Soviets. Well, that's not really true. That's not true. If you were born in 1970, you could have been trained by the Soviets in the late 80s, right? And even when Ukraine broke free, it's not like the Ukrainian military stopped being Soviet-ish in terms of its training. All these guys in the Ukrainian military in the 1990s were still Soviet trained. So they fought like Russians. I don't know though, but I don't know what it is in terms of but I know a lot of the NATO folks have complained that the Ukrainian military is still fighting like Russians and not like NATO. Having said that, trying to change an entire military like this probably isn't very easy either. I would think. How do you get everybody to sort of fight the new way? Anyway. What else we got, guys? What else we got? Beepity beep 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 beep. My nose is itching today. My allergies. Beepity beep 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 beep. Beep. I don't really care, Magical. Yeah, I mean, Putin's visiting North Korea. Like, he's also visiting Vietnam. I'm like, whatever. I mean, I don't want to see cooperation between those countries. You guys on YouTube, if you saw, you got a Sasha sighting over there on the corner. But I also don't necessarily care, well, my allergies don't stop, although in the spring they weren't as bad. Like today, I think also because the dog got her haircut today. So my apartment is like dog hair, dander, whatever at this point, I suspect. Oh, dog wants a little water. One moment. All right, dog, you get a little bit of water. A little bit. Okay. But yes, the dog has gone from being Miss Fluffy, and I have my new dinosaur shirt on today. I'm very happy. Woo-woo! One of my new Amazon t-shirts. I got a number of t-shirts off of Amazon. I'm very happy. Dinos. Thank you, Canada Zen. Thank you, Frankie, for the gifts. Yeah, nothing happened, Andrea. Yeah, Republicans. This is actually very interesting. This is part of the problem with democracy in the U.S. right now. The Republicans have basically got a noise machine that creates lies and spreads them to local newspapers, to local television stations. And the Republicans took a clip of Biden leaving a fundraiser or doing a fundraiser with Obama. And Obama and Biden are like arm in arm. And the Republicans took the clip, took a couple seconds, and then didn't show the rest. And they claimed, oh, Joe Biden was unable to walk off the stage and Barack Obama had to assist him. They made the entire thing up. The video shows they made the entire thing up. They did the same thing when Biden was in Normandy. They literally, and the problem is, of course, unlike Democrats have got like a couple news stations that are clearly Democratic, but they're just not that powerful, like MSNBC. MSNBC isn't that powerful. And B, MSNBC admits it's liberal, right? The Republican stations pretend they're independent, which is, again, part of the propaganda. And they've got TV stations. They've got this Sinclair group that controls TV stations around the country. And they take these fake stories and then they give them to small town television stations and they give them the script and they repeat all the lies and show the video on the local television. So they all got together first and they claimed in Normandy, when Biden was in Normandy a week ago, that Biden was confused on stage and started talking to no one. And they show this clip of all the world leaders and Biden looking the other way, talking, and no one's there. They cut the video. Of course, this was all the world Western leaders on stage. We have video. You expand the video, Biden is talking to one of the military guys from NATO with his parachute that had just parachuted in as part of the demonstration. And while the other leaders were kind of like, ha, 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 for the cameras, Biden turned and was congratulating the actual soldier, which is really cool, actually. Because imagine you're a NATO soldier and you don't expect the world leaders to come up to you. Biden went up to the one soldier to basically congratulate him and say, thank you for the work you're doing. Fox News, the Republicans, took the video, they cut the soldier out of the video, which is incredibly obnoxious. They cut the soldier out of the video, so you just see Biden sitting there talking and there's nobody there. Yeah, so but the problem is they're very good at this. They're very good at this. Now, CNN and MSNBC is liberal. CNN is not. CNN is one of the best news sources in the world. But again, unfortunately, the Republicans decades ago decided in our country, the right wing decided they were going to destroy the media because the media was the only thing holding them responsible for their lies. And they couldn't get things done if the media kept calling them out for lying. Or today in America, if the media called them out for embracing fascism, for embracing authoritarianism, for attacking America's allies, for defending America's enemies like Russia. The media calls them out on it. They had to get rid of the media. So what the Republicans did the last 30 years, and it worked. They told their own people, oh, you can't trust the media. They all hate you. They're all fake news, right? Remember fake news? They're all fake news. You can only trust our media, our Republican media. And of course, what does the Republican media do? It lies to them about everything. Thank you, JR. And unfortunately, but I've told you this before, I understand why Republicans believe the lies. Because if you're a Republican, your president, Donald Trump, is routinely lying to you. Your top members of Congress are routinely lying to you, right? So the top members of the House, the top members of the Senate, Republicans, are giving you the same lie. Your top TV network, Fox News, is giving you the same lie. Well, think about it. If your president, Donald Trump, tells you the election was stolen, if Fox News, your number one TV network, tells you the election was stolen, and mind you, and all the people on the network tell you it was stolen, all their experts tell you it was stolen, all the top members of Congress who you like, some of them you voted for, tell you it was stolen, of course you're going to think the election was stolen. I always tell this, guys, like if you're an American, imagine Barack Obama tells you that the Republicans did something, but it's a lie. And Joe Biden tells you, and CNN tells you, and the New York Times tells you, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all the Republicans in Congress tell you, right now, Barack Obama tells you. If Joe Biden tells you, if all of them tell you a lie is true, of course you're going to believe it, because you're not going to believe that there's a conspiracy of your top newspaper, your top TV show, your president you voted for, your party leaders in Congress. You're not going to believe that there's a conspiracy of lies. You're going to say the other guy must be lying. This is what is so dangerous about what has happened with democracy in our country, but also I think the world. Republicans for 30 years have done a very good job convincing their voters that lies are truth, and that the very people who correct the lies cannot be trusted. So it's very bad. No, it's very bad. But yes, so they're now trying to make Biden look terrible. Sasha, come on, hey, get in here. Yes, my dog come on, get in here. My dog who eats sticks threw up sticks all over my carpet in the middle of the night. I remember we talked about this. That's why I'm always talking about her and her sticks. You know, I mentioned Sinclair earlier, Heidi. Horrific. Sinclair, by the way, took the lies that person was mentioning and put them all over TV this morning. Oh, Joe Biden was confused at a fundraiser yesterday and didn't know where he was going. Total lie. They wrote the script saying he was confused, and they sent it out to small TV stations across America that they control. So literally, this should not be legal. You should not be able to run TV stations that are literally campaign contributions in this country. Should not be legal. You know, telling a true negative story, go for it. But making shit up, no. Literally was a lie. Was literally a lie. By the way, Donald Trump, on the other hand, this weekend, Donald Trump started complaining that Biden has dementia and has cognitive problems, and says, my doctor said I don't have any cognitive problems. Trump repeatedly named his doctor and called him something else entirely other than what I think he called him Ronnie Johnson or something. The guy's name is Ronnie Jackson. Called him Ronnie Johnson or something. Now, this guy's also a member of Congress. Thank you, Elizabeth. Now, Trump knows the guy. Trump had the guy as his doctor for like 4 years. He's been working with him as a member of Congress for like 4 more years. And Trump had no idea what the guy's name was, but he's literally giving a spiel about Biden's mind isn't working well. But Ronnie Johnson, not the guy's name, says my mind is great. So yeah, you want to talk about cognitive decline? Let's talk. Donald Trump, by the way, still thinks Barack Obama's president. He's going to be surprised when the debate happens. Trump repeatedly has said on stage that Barack Obama is still president. He'll say, well, there was one quote that was really amazing, because like literally not out of context. Thank you, Elizabeth. Trump in the quote is saying, well, the European leaders aren't happy with President Obama. And it's like, President Obama hasn't been president for 8 years. The European leaders aren't unhappy with President Obama doing something right now. President Obama's not doing anything right now. But the thing is, Trump didn't say it once. He said it at multiple events. He literally gets to the point occasionally where he thinks Obama's president. Again, if we're going to talk about cognitive, I mean, honestly, I don't think you should support Trump because he tried to violently overthrow the government, and he's a traitor. He supports our enemies like Putin, but he's also a traitor because he tried to violently overthrow our government, right? To me, that's enough of a reason. That's enough of a reason. You do not support somebody who tried to violently overthrow the government. That's it. End of story. If you're not a Democrat with a small d, you don't deserve to be in our country. Really, Shamu? Why don't you Google it before you leave? That's a lie. Yeah. Trump didn't try to violently overthrow the government on January 6th when 1,000 of his supporters stormed the Congress at his behooving, and then he refused to tell them to leave. But while they were searching the Congress to kill the vice president, they said they were going to lynch our vice president. Trump egged them on and started attacking the vice president in tweets while his supporters were in the Congress violently trying to find the vice president to kill him. So yeah, never happened. This is another lie. I'm saying we are in serious, this is why I talk about Trump, because the man's dangerous. This is not a Republican who disagrees with you. He's not even a Republican. This is an authoritarian. He's somebody who hates America, hates our troops. He's called our troops suckers and losers, hates our democracy, and tried to violently overthrow the election. You know, absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Oh, yeah, exactly. And as Luna said, and then he said, oh, I meant that. Exactly. You know, Trump, he's a liar. Of course he said, I meant it. I meant to say, oh, President Obama was still president. Yeah, sure you did, big guy. Well, first of all, he did mean to say it. Correct, because he thinks Obama's still president. I'm sure he did mean to say it, right? Of course he meant it, right? Oh, Salik, America attacked most of the Middle East. America has only attacked countries in the Middle East that are basically evil and promoting terrorism. If Middle East countries would stop being evil, they wouldn't get attacked. Very simple. So, you know, by the way, we've attacked lots of countries around the world who have been evil. We attacked Japan. We attacked Germany, right? White countries, Japan being not a white country. I'm not going to call them yellow, which liberal activists do because that's kind of racist. But yeah, when Middle East countries stop embracing terrorism, you know, they won't get attacked. Like, I mean, really? Saddam Hussein? Really? I didn't support the war going in, but nonetheless, accusing people of going after Middle Easterners, well, stop embracing terror and no one's going to go after you. You know, seriously, you got a lot of bad governments, unfortunately, you know, and make bad policy decisions. What do you do? Do I think Ukraine will ever be allowed into NATO? Maybe in 10 to 20 years, maybe 10 to 20 years, you know, but not until then. Unfortunately, because NATO's too freaked out. NATO's too freaked out. Anyway, what else we got? Nicholas, you'd have to ask some of the defense. I don't know if any of the defense folks are working with us today. I am not a defense guy. I'm a foreign policy guy. Nicholas says, what do you mean the Ukrainians fight like Soviets? The defense experts complain, and Callum's probably know what. Callum, ever since Callum fell in love, he's not on the show with us anymore. Callum, we need you. But Ronnie Johnson is not a senator. No, he's not. He's a House member. There's no way he's a senator. I don't think so. Google it. He's a House member from Texas. I don't remember what I don't remember what we were saying. I don't remember what we were saying. I don't have a problem with it. Terry says, what's your reaction to Zelensky saying he wants to be friends with China? Zelensky knows that China holds all the cards in pressuring Russia. And Zelensky would like a better relationship with China. Zelensky would like China to basically pull away from Russia, stop supporting Russia. And China's in an interesting spot because China keeps trying to pretend like they're the, you know, developing country in the middle. You know what I mean? And they're not taking sides when they totally took sides. And they're supporting the white imperialists in Russia. So Zelensky is kind of trying to, I think, play the game back and put pressure on the Russians by hopefully developing a better relationship with China. But, you know, China's a communist dictatorship, so good luck with that. Maybe, but, you know, China sees it far more in its own interest to help the Russian war machine oppress its neighbors than support Ukraine, unfortunately. So I'm not sure that's going to change, you know. No, California. Troll means being a troll. Trolls are people who come here in order to disrupt the conversation. It's an internet term that's been around for, I don't know, probably 30 years now. I've been working online communities for 30 years. A troll is someone who comes here and literally prepares in advance to come and throw bombs, verbal bombs. They come here just to cause a fight. It's someone to pick up. They're hecklers. Maybe a heckler is a good idea, a good way to explain a troll. That's what a troll is. A troll is not someone who disagrees. We have lots of people who disagree. But when you come here to be an ass and you come here to heckle and start a fight, you're going to get booted. Yeah. We don't do that. So I do guests, but I do guests that I invite. I've done guests before. Yeah, we've done guests. Who started the war? Russia. They literally invaded. They invaded in 2014, and then they literally invaded again in 2022. So I see we have a Serb that's sort of trying to whore for Russia here. What Kel Surprise. Serbs need to kind of grow up politically at this point. You know, they're so attached to the Soviet Union, and they just can't get over the fact that Russia isn't a world power anymore, and Russia's not the future. You guys want to be the future, become Europeans. Get out of this Soviet vassal mindset that you guys have. It's too bad. Hey, Sergey, it's sad. But you see the Serbs come all the time and they just basically, Russia, yay. It's just very sad. It is, as Dad to Dino, it's the tough guy Soviet mindset they cling to. They're stuck thinking like Soviets. It's too bad. And honestly, what's Russia ever going to do to help you out? They're a failed state at this point. Thank you, Brock. And they're failing, It's too bad. We're doing the trolls, the reason it's a bad troll day is the trolls got really pissed on Friday. I had a lot of good posts up on Friday about Russia having all sorts of problems with the Africans, the Sri Lankans, the Indians, the Nepalese, where the Russians went and basically kidnapped people really from these countries and forced them into the Russian military. Oh my God, they got so upset. So upset. So upset. What has Russia done to America? That's like saying, first of all, John, I know you can see a woman across the street getting attacked. What has her attacker ever done to you? Why are you calling the police? Why? Right? A child's getting kidnapped. Is it your child? Why are you calling the police? What has the kidnapper ever done to you? First point, personally, morally, and ethically, when innocent people and countries are getting beaten up by bad guys, I think we should help if it's in our national interest. Second of all, it's in our national interest. World War I and II, which the Russians had a big hand in World War II, causing it, got us sucked into a war and we lost a lot of people. Russia's going to get us into another world war. And I don't think that's a good thing in Europe. And they're going to do it because if you win in Ukraine, they're going to go after the rest of Europe next. So that's what Russia's done to me. But by the way, what has Russia done? Russia's been our enemy for 70 years, 100 years. Maybe not 100 years, right? But pretty much actually once they became Soviets. What have they done? Let's go through the list of the last 100 years of crap Russia has done trying to destroy my country. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, exactly. Possum just said, what did the H-man in Germany ever do to America in the 1930s? Why do we have to go fight him? Because eventually he's going to fight us. By the way, Ann Applebaum made a good quote about this. The Russians are already at war with us. We just don't realize it, right? People saying, what have the Russians ever done to us? They're literally at war with us. They exist to destroy our country at this point, and they've made that clear. They constantly threaten to nuke us. It's going after Ukraine is to try to basically, Europe especially, what have they done in Europe? They literally want to take the Baltic countries back. They want to literally take Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. They want to literally take Ukraine. They want to literally take Poland. What have they done? Well, you know what? A lot of us are from there too. A lot of Americans are from there. So it actually does have something to do with America. But also, if World War breaks out, it's going to have a hell of a lot to do because we're going to have to come and fight it. So sometimes you have to stand up to evil to make sure the evil doesn't become bigger. And then you're going to really have to fight it. Basically, you fight it now when it's small, or you fight it later when it's big. Which one? Thank you, Sergey. Happy to help. Anyway, a little bit more. It's already 20 after. So, no, world war is going to break out if we don't fund Ukraine is the problem. And this is why I complain about Donald Trump. I think Trump is setting us up for a world war, which is very bad because Russia will go after Europe next. If they get Ukraine, they're going to say this works. Going in and taking over these countries works. Let's take Estonia. Let's take Latvia. Let's take Lithuania. Let's take Poland. Right? NATO's not going to care if Donald Trump's president. Great. Trump's not going to care. Trump told him to invade. Literally, Trump told Putin to invade Europe. Putin's going to go, great. So anyway, haven't heard anything, John, about the U.S. and Russian astronauts. Hopefully well, F-16s, no news on the F-16s. There was one weird story, but it was some weird story about a Ukrainian pilot flying, and I think it's a bullshit story I saw on Twitter, but from an account I trust, but saying like Ukrainian pilots were flying F-16s in Ukraine. I was like, what? Like, I just think I'm going to look right now. It just was a weird story. It's one of those, I always say, like, if the news is really big, you're not going to see it on some small Twitter account. You know what? If the news is as big as the F-16 is already flying Ukraine's, then then are flying F-16s, then it's going to be beyond some small guy's Twitter account. Let me look here. Yeah, nope. Everyone's still saying they're still arriving. Yep, not surprising. So, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, no, exactly. It makes no sense. Anyway, Russia totally wants the U.S. Russia wants to destroy the U.S. Yes. Anyway, what else, guys? Maybe another question or comment or two, and then we'll wrap the show up. Well, that's the problem. Russia wants the Soviet Union back. Russia's upset that they lost their territory. I mean, as I said, the Russians held half of Europe hostage for 50 years, 45 years. They held 14 other countries hostage as part of the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union blew up because the Russian, basically the Soviets couldn't hold their act. They were such a failed country. They couldn't hold themselves together anymore, and they exploded. And all their hostages got free. Russians hate that. Putin hates that. The fact that all his hostages got away, he hates it. They want their hostages back. That's it. They want to kidnap Ukrainians. They want to grab the Latvians, Estonians, right? Lithuanians, Poles. They want to get everybody that was part of their hostage, all their hostages, whether it's the hostages in Europe or the hostages part of the Soviet Union. They want them back. Thank you, Marcy. Maybe we'll end with this. How's Ukraine doing? Who's it? Tim asks. Ukraine's doing better the last couple of weeks. I still think this war overall is a bit of a stalemate right now, right? Both sides are kind of killing each other, but not much is changing. There was a lot of concern a month or two ago. That concern has evaporated. They're still worried about Russia getting some little towns, but the big concern has kind of evaporated. The problem becomes, how do you help Ukraine win this war? And, it's difficult at this point. Look, I think we should have given Ukraine a lot more aid. We should have given Ukraine a lot more aid. And we didn't from before. So now we're in a situation where, what do you do? Had we given Ukraine a ton of aid earlier, they could have beaten the Russians. We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to give them the planes. We didn't want to give them the HIMARS. We didn't want to give them Patriot missiles. We didn't want to give them tanks. Well, guess what? We waited too long, and we gave the Russians time to dig in. So that's what worries me, is I just don't know what to do right now as far as to help Ukraine. So anyway. Okay. I said that was the last one. I'll give you one more. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the Aflac, because Tony asks an interesting question. Is there a chance the U.S. will attack Iran to prevent it from having nuclear weapons? Yes. Israel too. Thank you, Elizabeth. Iran gets nuclear weapons and it's like all bet is off, The issue becomes, even 20 years ago when I was looking at this issue, it was very difficult because the go away. Sasha, no, stop talking. Even 20 years ago, it was very difficult for hang on, no, I forget what your question. Sasha, quiet. My dog is whining behind me and she's like getting me. Oh, attacking Iran. Attacking Iran to take out their nuclear weapons program would have been hard 20 years ago because they have a lot of them deep down inside mountains and things like that. 20 years ago, mind you, the Iranians probably have better defenses now. 20 years ago, we would have had to send in, I think the number might have been 20, 30,000 or more men, ground troops to invade Iran in order to take out their nuclear weapons. That's tough. That's very difficult. So, no, I don't, it's very scary. If I were Israel, I would not let Iran get nuclear weapons because Iran could nuke Israel. Israel, by the way, has nuclear weapons. That is what is so particularly scary about Iran getting nuclear weapons. If you're Israel, you have to sit there and say, do I let Iran get nuclear weapons who has threatened to nuke me, or do I stop them before they can get them? Well, if you're Israel, you could try to do planes or you could use a nuclear weapon. I mean, it gets very scary, it gets very scary. But yes, I could see us bombing Iran. I could see Israel bombing Iran. I could see a bunch of NATO countries bombing Iran to stop them from getting nukes because they're a dangerous terrorist state and we can't afford to let them get nukes, but it's very scary. It's very scary. So, all right, let me get a quick little summary of the news we covered today, guys, and then call it quits. Today is day 844 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. The peace summit ended in Switzerland. I didn't actually go through the details there, but basically not a lot was agreed to, in large part because China had basically bullied developing countries into not agreeing to anything, so they didn't. Trump said that there's no benefit to the U.S. in Ukraine winning the war this weekend, and he criticized the fact that Congress, including his own people, gave another $60 billion to Ukraine. Thank you, Linka. Thank you, Big Hawk. Or Big Hawk for muting, Linka for the gifts, Marsha for the helmet. Sky News, a record number of NATO countries are expecting to hit the military alliance's defense spending target this year. Basically, a record number of NATO countries have increased their military spending, which is what we wanted them to do. So that's good. Phillips O'Brien, who's a British defense expert, basically says that the Russian offensive in northeastern Ukraine has been going terribly, and it has really set Ukraine back. So, German Frankenstein air defense tank, a new Frankenstein air defense tank designed to shoot down Russian drones and missiles, is being supplied to Ukraine by a top German arms firm. Kyiv Independent, a new Ukrainian naval drone will be equipped with an anti-aircraft platform. Another boat drone, a new one, is coming into service that is basically much larger and has a much larger explosives and can travel faster. Kerch Bridge update. Some Ukrainian military officials were saying it's not worth blowing up the Kerch Bridge in southern Ukraine because not enough traffic is hitting there. I wonder whether it's maybe a matter of them, Ukraine trying to basically divert attention. So, oh, we would never hit the bridge. Ha, 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 boom, right? Maybe. Thank you, Marsha, for the gifts. RFK Jr. blamed NATO for Russia invading Ukraine. Good little Putin puppet that he is. Reuters says Canada does not think the time is right to send military trainers back to Ukraine. Latvia has dispatched its first batch of drones to Ukraine as part of an international coalition to get Ukraine drones. Ukrainians may have electricity for only 6 to 7 hours a day come this winter because of the increasing Russian attacks on electricity. And finally, 65 to 74% of Ukrainians support Zelensky remaining in power until the end of martial law. So, all right, guys, I am going to go. Good talking to you. So, yeah, so clearly this draft thing is a Russian troll talking point, by the way, just so folks know. If you're anybody talking about the draft in America, as somebody just pointed out, and again, you could tell it's Russian because they don't even know how the draft works. Oh, my God, like 18 to 25-year-olds will have to register for the draft. We already registered for the draft. Like it's what, as I recall, it's what happens when you get your social security card. Like that's part of the process. Thank you, Jeremy. It's a Russian talking point. It's just total bullshit. But yeah, so if you hear anybody talking about it, either they're a Russian troll or you literally got it from a Russian troll. So you need to ignore that stuff. All right, guys. I am done. Let's talk to you tomorrow. I'll be back at 6 o'clock Eastern time, US on Tuesday, for another exciting episode of the Aravosis Report. We'll be talking about the latest news from Ukraine. And we'll see you guys then. Remember to check out the auctions on Discord. You can find Discord via the link in my profile on TikTok. Click it, look for Discord. You guys go to the description of my show on YouTube, click the Discord, click the Linktree link, and Discord will come up there. Actually, I may have even put, maybe I didn't. I need to put the Discord link in the show description on YouTube. I don't know if I have. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. Thank you, Big D. Lots of crazy stuff today. The Russians are not happy about our show, which means it's a good show. So I will see you guys tomorrow, okay? Thanks, Elizabeth. Exactly. Go cook dinner, everybody. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Burp. All right, see you guys.